Andrew, was I disorganized when we first got married?
Yes, you were very disorganized.
Hey everyone, you may be surprised to hear this, and not many people know this about me, but I used to be extremely disorganized and I used to be horrible at using a planner. Every year I would buy those blue sky planners that they sell at Target and I would barely use them. I felt like I was drowning in the piles of paperwork that I was keeping in boxes around our apartment. I felt like I couldn't focus at all and I was extremely frustrated with my life. Getting from where I was to where I am now was definitely a process. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that I learned along the way so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. So today I'm going to be sharing 17 ideas with you for turning planning into a habit. In the New York Times best-selling book Atomic Habits, James Clear describes how you can turn something into a habit using the laws of behavior change. These are: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Make it obvious. There are several different ways that you can either make your planner obvious or the concept of needing to plan obvious. One way is by making the cue obvious in your environment, and you can do this by keeping your planner out. Keep your planner out in a location that you are often in where you can see it. Rosemary Groner from the home organization business The Busy Budgeter recommends keeping your planner open on your kitchen counter so that it's something that you consistently see throughout the day. What has worked for me is having my planner in a location that is both easily accessible and in my line of sight. Lately, I have been keeping my planner open to the current page on the cabinet in my craft room so that I can see it every time I'm walking down the hallway. And when I got my first Happy Planner, I used to keep it open on the desk in my apartment. And every day I would take my planner with me to work and school. And once I got to the research lab that I was working in, I would open up my planner and put it next to me on my desk so that I could see it throughout the day. So if using your planner means leaving it open on the floor so that you have to step over it when you get out of bed in the morning, do what you have to do to make it obvious. Idea number 2 is to set phone reminders and alarms. If the reason why you aren't using your planner is because you are forgetting about it, it might be helpful to set an alarm and a reminder to go off at the time that you want to either check your planner or update your planner. Maybe you want to remember to check your planner at the beginning of your day, and maybe you wake up at 6 a.m. So you can have your alarm and your reminder go off at 7 a.m. to check your planner and see what tasks you have for that day. You can also set reminders that only go off once a week. So for example, maybe you want to plan out your week on Sunday evenings. So you could have a reminder and alarm go off on your phone at 7 o'clock on Sunday evenings, and it says to update your planner, do your weekly review, and plan out your week. And you can even use your phone reminders and alarms to remind you when your routines need to start. So for example, I have a morning routine, an after work routine, an evening routine on work days. And at 8 o'clock, my phone will go off and there is a reminder that says, start your evening routine, so that if I'm distracted by something, I'm working on something else at that time, I know that it's 8 o'clock and I need to start my evening routine. Idea number 3 is to be specific. Atomic Habits says that hundreds of studies have shown that implementation intentions are effective for sticking to our goals. You can create an implementation intention by using the following formula. I will behavior at time in location. For example, instead of saying, I'm going to start planning more, you can say, I will plan out the following day at 7 p.m. each night while sitting at my desk. And that way you know exactly what you need to be doing. Make it easy. The fourth idea is to simplify, simplify, simplify. A research study published in the European Journal of Social Psychology in 2010 and involving 96 participants over a span of 12 weeks found that the simpler the behavior was, the less time it took for the behavior to become a habit. For example, the participants were 1.5 times quicker at making drinking water a habit versus making exercise a habit. And I think that this can be translated to planning. Although I am currently using 5 planners, I definitely did not start out with 5 planners. I started with 1 planner because 5 planners would have definitely overwhelmed me. And then I very slowly worked my way up to 5 planners. In the same way, I also use a very simplified layout where I only wrote down a few tasks per day and I only wrote down scheduled items like appointments, events, meetings. And I didn't have any added sections in my planner, no added inserts. It was just the happy planner that I bought at the store. I knew that if my planner was filled with tasks, that looking at that would overwhelm me. And if my planner was overwhelming to look at, then I would resist looking at it and I wouldn't use it. I also knew that if I filled my planner with so many tasks that were impossible to physically get done in a day, that I would then end up feeling like a failure at the end of the day. In order to simplify your planner, maybe you want to start with your top 3 MITs, which stands for most important tasks. These are your highest priority tasks for the day. And also those scheduled items like your meetings, your appointments, any sort of event that you have to go to, etc. And then if you end up getting everything done and you do have extra time, maybe you can pull from another list you have. So for example, I use a monthly list, and on those days when I do get everything done, I can pull from my monthly list because those are other tasks that I would like to get done that month. So remember, take baby steps. Start small so that you aren't overwhelming yourself, and then slowly build up to maybe adding inserts, or maybe if you want to, using more than 1 planner. It's definitely a process, and in order to get those reps in and repeat the habit enough times, we have to start small and work our way up. Idea number 5 is to use the 2-minute rule. This also comes from the book Atomic Habits. And it's basically the idea that any new habit that you are starting shouldn't take more than 2 minutes to do because it is difficult to get started on a new habit. So if you are telling yourself that I only have to work on this for 2 minutes, you may be more likely to get started. Try only planning for 2 minutes, and then when your timer goes off, you can stop. And then over time, as the days go by and you start feeling more comfortable with it, you can gradually add in more time that you spend planning. Because when you are forming a new habit, it's not about the overall time that you are putting into the habit, it's the number of times you are repeating that habit. And you probably can do anything for 2 minutes, even something that is overwhelming for you, even planning. Idea number 6 is to tell yourself that your planner doesn't need to be perfect. Take the pressure off of yourself. Maybe the reason why you are having a difficult time turning planning into a habit is because you associate it with all of these negative feelings through comparison when looking at photos on Instagram. And maybe you're telling yourself, my planner doesn't look like that. So realize that it's okay for your planner not to look like that. And don't put pressure on yourself to decorate every week if that's not something that you want to do. Idea number 7 is to eliminate as many hurdles as possible. In addition to having your planner open to the current page, you can also make the act of planning easier if you have the tools that you're going to need to plan readily available and next to your planner. So for myself, I like to keep my planner pen out next to my planner, but it's also right next to my desk where I keep my planning supplies. And if for some reason I need more, I have my planner cart just a few steps away. What I've noticed is that the more energy it takes to get started on something, the less likely it is that I am going to start on it. So if I make it as easy as possible to start, and that includes to start planning, then I am more likely to follow through. Idea number 8 is to try a different way of planning. Maybe the reason why you're struggling to make planning a habit is because the layout that you're using isn't the right layout for you. And maybe it doesn't work with how your brain thinks. So instead of making it easy on yourself, maybe you are making it harder on yourself. For example, maybe you are using a bullet journal right now, but what you really need is something that's more defined and structured. Or maybe you are trying to force yourself to use a horizontal weekly, but maybe a daily is actually what you need. I've mentioned this before, but I was previously trying to force myself to use a dashboard layout for my social media planner, and it just wasn't working for me. I would stare at the page and I felt like there was so much going on that it was just overwhelming to me. This year, I switched over to a vertical and I'm so much happier with that. There are websites like 101planners.com that offer free printables of different layouts and different inserts that you can try out. So maybe you want to try out different layouts and inserts until you find one that fits your schedule type and your planning preferences and your style of thinking. Make it attractive. Idea number 9 is to clean your workspace. I don't know about you, but for me, when I clean up my workspace, I feel like I'm creating a much more inviting environment. I personally cannot focus if my desk has a bunch of things sitting on it because my mind just thinks of all of the actions associated with each of those items. Maybe like this sticker book needs to go in the closet, or maybe there's a cookbook sitting out and I'll think, I wonder which recipe Andrew wants us to try out next week. Or I need to read that pamphlet on my work benefits so that I can update the information on the website. When your workspace is clean and you can think clearly, it makes the act of planning more attractive because it suddenly turns from this stressful activity into something that is both calming and fun. Idea number 10 is to decorate your planner. For me, decorating my planner and making it really colorful is a way to make it attractive, something that I want to look at and to write in. It's not just visibly attractive, but it's also something that I begin to associate with being fun and an activity that I enjoy. And when I do decorate my weekly spreads, that is exactly why I'm doing that, because it is something that is fun to me and it does make me enjoy using my planner throughout the week more. Idea number 11 is to use temptation bundling. We discussed this in a previous video and I'll go ahead and link that down below if you want to learn more in detail about temptation bundling and how it works with a planner. But temptation bundling essentially uses desirable activities to encourage the completion of undesirable activities or tasks by performing them simultaneously. So your brain begins to associate that undesirable task with the desirable task, and it makes that undesirable task more enjoyable. For example, if you can plan out your week while listening to your favorite music, that would be temptation bundling. Make it satisfying. Idea number 12 is to use habit trackers. Do you ever feel really good when you check something off? I think it also feels really good to be able to maintain a streak of accomplishments, such as with a habit tracker. If you were to create a habit tracker for each time you use your planner or update your planner at certain times of the day, you are almost making using your planner into a game. So a habit tracker would be able to make planning more satisfying. Idea number 13 is to use reinforcement. Atomic Habits says that in order to make a habit more satisfying, the best approach is to use reinforcement. which refers to the process of using an immediate reward to increase rate of behavior. What this means is that you are giving yourself a reward for your good behavior of following through on the task of planning. I showed on that habit tracker sheet a few weeks ago this column that said reward. So you could do something like that in your planner where you could write down the reward that you would earn if you successfully checked off all 7 days of that week. And that way you have something to look forward to for a job well done. Something that is also very important for habit formation is identifying the cues that you want to use. And that's because all habits rely on cues. According to Charles Duhigg, the author of The Power of Habit, a cue is a trigger that tells your brain to go into automatic mode and which habit to use. And Duhigg says that experiments have shown that almost all habitual cues fit into one of 5 categories: location, time, emotional state, other people, and immediately preceding action. So let's explore how location, time, other people, and immediately preceding next action cues can prompt us to use our planners. Idea number 14 is to use location as a cue. If you work in an office building, you may associate the building that you work in with the action of working. And you probably associate your car with driving. This can also be applied to the different rooms or spaces in your home. Your bedroom might be associated with sleeping, your kitchen with cooking and eating, your couch with relaxing. But maybe there is a desk or a table or a chair in your home that you could devote to planning if you haven't already. If you want to start using location as a cue, pick a location that you designate for planning. So you plan in that same place each time that you are using your planner. So let's talk about why location as a cue could be helpful. When James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, goes to the gym, he always starts his workout in the same spot. Using location as a habit cue helps him because he says, there are bound to be some days when I don't feel like exercising, but the location-based trigger helps me overcome that and get into my workout ritual as painlessly as possible. So if you sit at the same table, let's say, every single time you plan, you may not have to force yourself to use your planner because your mind and body may begin going through the motions of planning with little effort on your part. And this is how I made planning a habit in our 1-bedroom apartment that we used to live in. I always left my planner out on my desk, and that's where I planned. When we first moved into this house, I always left my planner out on the kitchen table, and that was where I planned. And it was also in a location that I would see constantly throughout the day. Every time I went into the kitchen or I was leaving for work or I got home from work, I saw my planner, and that reminded me to check it. And now I have this craft room, and I always plan at this desk in my craft room, so I associate this room with planning. Another way that you can use location as a cue is to leave a note to yourself to check your planner. So maybe you could leave a note on your closet door, and every time you need to get into the closet, you see that note and it says check your planner. So before you go into the closet, you go over and you check your planner, and then you go back to the closet. It's a physical cue that triggers an action. Or maybe the background for your desktop on your computer is a photo of a planner, and maybe it says check your planner. So every time you turn on your computer, you see that reminder and you go check your planner. Idea number 15 is to use other people as a cue. Maybe this is not something that we can do right now because of the pandemic, but in the future, if you had a planner buddy or a group of friends that you planned with every week, that would be using other people as the cue for planning. Other people help to keep us accountable, so they are good for helping us to form new habits. Idea number 16 is to use time as the cue. And you can use time to your advantage by creating a planner routine. And that just means that you plan at the same time of day or on the same day each week. Over the years, I have found that the best time for me to plan out my week is after my Sunday afternoon routine on Sunday evenings. And this act of basically scheduling an appointment with myself for when I plan out my week has done a tremendous job of turning the act of having these weekly reviews into a habit for me. And it has gotten to the point where it's automatic. I don't even have to think about it. I just find myself walking over to this craft room to use my planner. So some examples of how you can use time as a cue are: when I get home from work, I will plan out the following day. After I eat breakfast, I will check my tasks in my planner. And if you do this, you can use time to your advantage. Idea number 17 is to use an immediately preceding action as a cue. There are certain events that may trigger certain responses in you. This is like how when a traffic light turns green, you go. When your alarm clock goes off in the morning, you probably get out of bed. When you see a sale on Happy Planners, you buy everything in sight. Or is that just me? One way to take advantage of preceding actions to start new habits is something called habit stacking. And I have a video that goes into more detail about this and how you can use your planner to start habit stacking, and I'll leave the link down below. But just as an example of how you could use habit stacking to make planning a habit, you could link it to maybe brushing your teeth. So after I brush my teeth, I check my planner. What are some ideas that you have for turning planning into a habit that I didn't cover? Let us know down in the comments below, because your idea could potentially help someone else out. And that is exactly what this channel is about. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next Saturday. Bye! 'Cause what we had was gold, and you gotta know I was standing on the border. The walls around me kept me safe. I couldn't see that I was shutting you out. I was stuck up in